I keep pondering, are my podcasts about me, about the world, or is it both? It's really both. I'm trying to curate the news and give everyone who listens a chance to understand the issues that are important, not just the people's personalities, because none of us is perfect. Some are more inclined to be nasty than others, but it's really about policy. Who's going to give us the best policy? We got a vote in November, on November 5th. And I got into advocacy many years ago because I felt that politics was important. And it's not something that can be ignored. It affects all of our lives. If I had realized it sooner, I might have gone into finance or politics instead of science and industry and business and entrepreneurship. But I have, and I've had an incredible life. So I'm going to share with you what I think is really important, like I always do, every week, because there are so many issues on the table. I spoke to a young woman yesterday who's got a 3% mortgage and is hoping to do better. Well, in this environment, she's already doing the best she can because interest rates are still, I believe, above 5%. So if she gets it down to where I am at 2.87, that may be the best she can do. So she'll have to negotiate to keep that 3% rate. Because I don't know that rates will go below 3%. For many years, when our economy was booming in the 50s and the 60s, mortgage rates were thought to be cheap when they were at 4.5%. In fact, the banks really wanted to buy out all those folks with the mortgages and have them pay it off because it was a drain on the bank. Now, rates are going to go lower. My bet, 0.5 percentage point easy in September. And then the stock market, which has been going up and down, will shoot up. And then who knows what will happen after that. Then I think it depends on the election. So let's talk about the election. You look at one hand, because really what we have is we've got two parties. Third party, a real Republican party, not dominated by Donald Trump, that never emerged. Could have, but it didn't. And could have doesn't matter. So you got the Republican Party. The Republican Party is made up of insurrectionists, people who participated in the January 6th insurrection, the storming of our Capitol that resulted in 6 people being killed. Those folks who are in Congress today, who participated in that insurrection, they shouldn't even think about running for office next time, because according to the 14th Amendment, Section 3, they're barred from ever being in Congress again. They went against the oath of office to our Constitution. We are, in spite of the Supreme Court and their love of a unitary president, we are a government of laws and rules. We really are a constitutional democracy. And don't anyone forget it. Sure, you can try with all your might to have a Supreme Court that overrules precedents with no legal substance whatsoever. but that's not going to last long. Reforms are going to take place. They have to. Federal agencies are as much a part of the executive function as they are of the congressional function. We don't need a Supreme Court that is the arbiter of last resort. If necessary, that Supreme Court is only going to rule upon constitutional issues. They won't have the ability to rule on anything else. They've made it worse for themselves, not better. There are mechanisms to curtail authoritarianism. I was hoping that Joe Biden would be the imperial president. He's got the power. Doesn't look like he will. Because I'm hearing Schumer saying he's going to put in federal voting rights in February of 2025. And that's kind of unfortunate because we need those voting rights today. Today, when so many states in the South are overturning the laws. They're requesting that people bring passports in or birth certificates to vote. We don't have a voter fraud problem, except when the MAGA Republicans themselves voted twice. And these were seasoned lawyers who were, in fact, building a case for insurrection on January 6th. I think it was Eastman who voted in 2 states, North Carolina and one other. So it's not immigrants. We've never had to worry about illegal immigrants voting. It's a non-issue. The issues of today are simple. We need a president and a government that represents we the people, the middle class. We can't afford high tariffs on imports since most of our products are made from imports. All high tariffs would do is increase prices to the middle class and increase inflation. We don't want the tax cuts that Trump put in during the pandemic to help corporations to be extended. No corporation should be giving into the government pot 21%. No siree. You want to cut their taxes, make it realistic to 28% and cut out the loopholes. Make them pay. You want to generate trillions of bucks? That's what I hear everyone saying. You want trillions. Well, there's a good way to have trillions. Everyone pays into FICA. It doesn't matter what your income is. Why should there be a cap on income where most of the money then comes from the middle class and it's a hardship? No, sirree. If everyone paid into FICA, we'd never have to worry about Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid. And that's the other thing. We should have universal health care. The abuse of all the insurance companies has shown us once and for all that if you rely on insurance companies, you're relying on denial of services. We need to get the insurance companies out of the business and Medicare and Medicaid taken over. And this way they can negotiate all of our drug prices. No reason Americans have to pay more. And what else do we need? We need antitrust. Albertson and Kroger's want to now merge. We don't want that to happen, folks. It was just like the first pharmaceutical companies when they had what they called inversion. Inversion meant one company swallowed up another company, And then you got one left. And of course, you're going to lose employees because there's duplication of research, of services, of PR, of everything. So every time you've got a monopoly, you got less people employed. And since the numbers of people that are employed, the statistics rely on what the corporations say, hey, those numbers could look beautiful for years, but they may not be real. Because I know that AI does racial discrimination, gender discrimination, age discrimination. It's about time to regulate AI. It's past time to regulate content on social media platforms. We don't need deep fakes. We don't need lies and misinformation. And we don't need abuse of people. And there's mechanisms in the law to do this. If I have to hope with all my heart and soul that the right person gets into government, into the presidency, that's a sad state of affairs. It should be a no-brainer. I don't want Donald Trump's methodology of government. Not even a teens. The fossil fuel companies are saying, we don't have to cut back because you guys are going to need our fossil fuels into 2050. I wonder how many of us will be left in 2050 when the planet keeps overheating exponentially. As it is with our monoclonal cultures of plants and produce, a lot of them are dying off. I didn't realize it until I saw this really wonderful program called Omnivore, written by the chef at Noma in Copenhagen, who's supposed to be #1 in the world. And I guess, why would I like to try his food? Because I love eating. He's done a series on chili, on bananas. Did you know there was 6,000 varieties of bananas? Certainly, some of those 6,000 varieties would be resistant to our heat. And we only use one, the Cavendish, because it's easy to grow. But now it's got a problem. All over Central America, the Cavendish is dying out due to a fungus. So our bananas are not going to last very much longer unless we've got a substitute in place. And there was something like 1,500 different varieties of corn. We only use one. Again, we've got to be careful. I understand now with the heat in the heat dome, we're in the corn country. Corn sweats. Who knew that corn sweats and produces more humidity that makes it more intolerable for humans to exist near cornfields? So we got problems. We got solutions. The solutions is we go to renewable energy. And folks are working on replacements as we speak. It shouldn't be just that if you're in AI or a NVIDIA that your stock zooms up 1,000%. So you go from 100 million to a $1 trillion corporation or a $3 trillion corporation overnight. We need to do the War Production Act now so that we can put in heat pumps, use geothermal, use more solar, and start getting the temperature of our globe down. It's not good that the polar caps are melting. It's not good that we have volcanoes in Iceland or Greenland. It's not good that half the world bakes while the other half floods. Sooner or later, the impact is going to affect everyone. And if greedflation is not because of corporations now, in the future, greedflation is going to be because we really have shortages. And those shortages are going to be apparent to all of us. The wealthy think they can live it out. There'll always be stuff for them. But as we saw in that tragic accident off of Sicily the other week, even billionaires get caught up in some freak accident. And though their lives were productive and they meant well, they're gone. So when Mother Nature decides that she's had enough, we're not going to be able to buck her. And whether we're rich or poor, we're all going to suffer from the heat, because there's going to be just so much energy to go around and power our homes so that we can all be cool. Think proactive. Think proactive like we were with the pandemic. Don't ever stop thinking proactive, because if you don't think proactive, you can't get to the next steps, and you never will. And we need to be prepared for the next pandemic, the next outbreak of encephalitis from a mosquito that doesn't even belong here, or monkeypox that doesn't belong here, or dengue fever that doesn't belong here. And even in Israel, they're showing that diseases in bats can get passed to humans. So let's stop thinking about fairy tales and look at the reality. Don't listen to deniers. We've got a problem with our climate. We got to fix that problem. We've got the solutions to fix that problem, and we should be working on it expeditiously. And we should also be putting everyone to work who wants to work. Why should something like CrowdStrike affect the entire globe when the solution is easy? In-house IT to protect all your networks and give you the procedures that you need so that if somebody's off, everyone's protected no matter what. I just got a notification from United Healthcare. Evidently, millions of folks have their Social Security numbers breached because United Healthcare was breached in February. They learned about it in March, and in August, they're finally sending out reports saying if we want to protect ourselves, we can freeze all of our accounts and make sure that they're monitored for fraud. That's really horrible. Why aren't the companies investing in cybersecurity and IT? Don't leave it at our problem and at our doorstep. You take care of it. You protect us. So there's a lot to think about. A lot that should be on our mind when we go to the polls in November. And we don't have much time. You're not hearing it from the candidates. Demand that you hear. How are they going to protect Americans? The administrative state, that's a necessity because those are the experts. The Supreme Court's not an expert. They don't know anything about AI. They don't know anything about trade. They don't know anything about medicine. But the FDA does. My solution is you make all those agencies independent of industry and corporations. Then you never have to worry about conflicts of interest. You rely on the experts to do what's right. Not like Project 2025, where the fossil fuel company writes in the regulations for EPA. No, siree. I want an independent EPA, someone who could look at the PFAS chemicals and say, they're not healthy for us. Somebody who can look at microplastics and figure out how we get it out of our system, because we're breathing it, we're eating it, we're drinking it, it's in our bloodstream, it's in our brains, and it's all of these products are causing cancers, heart disease, diabetes. It's our lifestyle, folks. We need a change, not a change that's going to take another 100 years, but a change that will happen now and probably over the next 10 years, so that we can bring the temperature of our globe down, and of all of us, so that none of us has to be polarized. Because wouldn't it be nice if we all worked towards the same goal? The preservation of our lives, the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness.